All, am I audible first of all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So thank you everybody for giving me an opportunity to speak to you. They have fixed me a number of presentations lined up for this training program. I hope there are three presentations. Today is the first presentation to be given by me is on the Windows security, where I will be discussing the hardening of Windows 10 operating system. So I just want to say here that it is a very theoretical kind of a presentation. Some of you might feel that why is this presentation to us? It is not our job. It is the IT team or the network team who will be doing it for us. But I just want to remind you that everybody, whether you are working in the office, an IT team is there to support you. However, there is no IT team available at your home where same Windows operating system is being used by yourself, by your wife, by your parents, by your kids. So it is equally important to harden the operating system as far as the Windows is concerned. The similar thing goes for the Linux also. I hope there is a session planned after this on the Linux environment as well. So So prior to that, I just want to introduce myself. I am Gaurav Pathak. I am posted in CERT in. Um, it's been almost 22 years working in the uh, domain or in the Government of India domain, out of which around 10 years specifically in the cyber security. So with that, I start myself. Balance details, you can Google it out. Maybe you get some information. So, what is hardening? It is basically reducing the attack surface. My one lining is hardening is to secure an environment to reduce an attack surface. Attack surface of what? Attack surface of vulnerability without affecting our basic functions, without affecting our performance, without affecting our daily activities. We should secure our system in such a manner that we reduce the attack surface or the attack environment for the adversary. So when I say reducing, it will reduce the unnecessary softwares, unnecessary usernames, and disabling unnecessary services. So this is as per Wikipedia. Now, what is our aim? Aim is to reduce the attack surface in such a manner that we configure our OS securely, create rules and policies which help us in functioning more efficiently with and removing unnecessary applications, unnecessary services which overloads the system. So this is done to minimize the computer's exposure to the threats and to mitigate any possible risk which is there within the environment. As we are working or we are vulnerable, we are working in a internet domain where the being a government officials, everybody is targeting onto our network or onto our systems. So it is not only the job of the IT team or the IT support team, but it is the individual's responsibility also to secure their own system in such a manner and support IT team so that minimum to minimum damage is being done in case of any attack or anything is happening. So to start with, types of system hardening. So what are the types of system hardening? So the types, let's start as the applications, the hardening of all the applications which are running onto our environment, which includes your Microsoft Office, your Java, your SQL, your PDFs. So all these applications needs to be hardened. Hardened means the patches which are being released by these OEM should be applied to these kind of applications on the regular basis. For example, the one of the even the browsers, these browsers needs to be updated so that our the vulnerabilities related to that particular applications, for example browser, is not exposed outside for a attacker or for a hacker to exploit. Similarly comes to the operating system. As far as the Windows is concerned, a patch Tuesday is the very common word which is being used where the operating system is being patches related to the vulnerabilities noticed or the some issues noticed by the Windows is are addressed, and the relevant patches are released on every Tuesday in a month, second Tuesday in a month, for hardening of the, so that it is applied onto the system and it is being hardened. Equally important to harden those servers also, because most of our data is residing is over there. If our servers are also not properly hardened, then the data may be leaked through any of the vulnerabilities or any of the loopholes which are existing into the environment. Then comes the database, then comes the network. And now the network, when I say network, it includes the hardware firewalls, the hardware switches, and the software firewalls, which are importantly, which are installed into your desktop. So most of you would have noticed that you have not even considered configuring a firewall onto your desktop system. When I say desktop system, whether it's an office desktop or a house or your home desktop, you just have enabled the firewall, and there will be no policies which you have been ever configured into your firewall. So that is also a bad habit kind of a thing, where you should consider configuring your firewall as per your usage. So this is the slide which I've taken it from the Windows site, which says that if you have a secured hardware, if your identities are secure, if your data is secure, then you are 99.9% secured from threats, is what is the Windows say. But I have got a different uh, explanation to this, is where I can secure my identities, I can hide my identities, but my browsing habits, my habit internet habits expose me to an extent that the adversaries can take advantage to it. So the point here, one must include also, is the your securing your habits. Your habits should be of browsing onto the internet should be such that you are difficult to guess who the person is, in addition to the all those four steps which are mentioned here. So the hardening process is listed here. The hardening process is, first of all, what to harden, how do you know? So the audit your existing system. So actually this lecture, auditing the existing system, is being planned on the last day of the, is one of the last series. So what I'll do, I'll start this presentation from bottom to upwards. So in this session, we will be addressing only to the hardening of the desktops. And then on the last day of our lecture, we will be learning the various tools, the various commands, which we can be utilized to audit the existing systems. What I have thought of initially for the today also, that I'll go and show the practical demonstration. But then I thought let the practical demonstration is more viable for the auditing rather than doing the hardening. So this is what I'll start off from the operating system hardening, database, application, patch your vulnerabilities, and then audit the existing your existing systems. So whether everything has been done and everything has been secured or it is not secure. So some Windows OS hardening tips. I would like to say that these are the very small tips where you have to apply onto your system so that you are secure, your desktop is secure, and the data which is residing onto your systems are in the safe hands. So you should configure the baselines. There are security templates which are available. You apply those security templates, the group policies. Even though you are not part of any Active Directory domain or any on a domain, those group policies can be applied onto a single desktop system. Then patches and the patch management, service packs, and the cleaning up of the program. These are the various processes which everybody should have, should apply as a practice, and they should keep it in their habit that on the regular basis, whatever frequency they feel, whether on a weekly, whether on a bi-weekly, or on 15 days, on monthly, but they need to go back, check, and check whether the system is safe or it is not safe, and all those policies or all those configuration which needs to be displayed is displayed or not. So the group policy, so let's start with the group policy. So group policy is the feature of the Microsoft family where you can control the user accounts and the computer accounts. So as you are aware that every system has got the various users, and there are the computer accounts also which are by default. So you need to apply the group policy in such a manner that the accounts which are exposed to the internet domain or the internet world are both secure. So group policy is basically, it provides a centralized management and configuration of the operating system, applications, and the user settings in an Active Directory environment. And you can also apply it on a standalone computers using the local group policies. So the basic command, if you type on your computer screen on a command prompt, is gpedit.msc. Whenever you working on a home computer or on an office computer, which is where the IT team is not able to help you, you should on your own uh, can do this. It's very simple process. I will be running through those processes and will be showing you how to do it and what all things needs to be secured. So these are the few aspects which I will be covering in this. So the first thing is Windows R is the Windows plus R. You will notice a pop-up will open where you will type gpedit.msc, group policy edit.msc. A local group policy editor screen will open up where you can able to apply these group policy objects. So now what we need to think that what we should restrict first and then what we should restrict later based on the various guidelines which are being issued, or based on the threats envisaged. We can define them between as the high priorities and as well as from the medium priorities. So let's discuss the high priorities. So the most important is in the high priority is your application version and your patches. So that means the patches of various applications, operating systems which are released by the OEMs on regular basis, whether it is through Patch Tuesday or on various days by the OEM, you should try to update in a shortest time frame to secure yourself from the vulnerabilities that are being addressed by those patches and the higher versions of the applications. The same goes for your desktop, same goes for your mobile phones also. If you have seen the App Store or of the Android or the iOS, they provide you patches regularly, and sometimes they provide you the version upgrade of your OS. So that thing is applicable in the desktop, that is applicable in the mobile phones also. So this is the primary thing to reduce the risk. For you should apply the patches and the versions, and you should upgrade as soon as possible. Uh, Attack surface reduction is also a part of a Windows Defender. Windows Defender is the default antivirus kind of a thing, which is also doing it, which is primarily being a real-time antivirus scanning engine, and it was designed for to block email, child processes, executables, injectables, APIs, macros. You should configure your Windows Defender to block all these unwanted things if you are not working on those, like email client and webmail. I hope, except this, everything can be blocked, or in email client, if you are only accessing through the browser, then it is okay. Otherwise, you should be able to configure these rules to block all those things. So now in that group policy, when gpedit.msc, I have shown you that this is the path where you have to go and configure the ASR rules, which is the attack surface reduction, and enable each of these parameters as one. So you will find it in the Windows Defender Exploit Guide, attack surface reduction. So once you configure these rules, you will be able to set up your systems so that your attack surface is reduced and as one of the component. So now most of us have the habit of storing our credentials onto the or credentials means your passwords, your usernames onto the systems. So these are stored in the SAM database. Now, SAM database, every adversary wants to extract these database so that the credentials can be stored. So the basic thing is that you should limit these database for one login. Multiple logins should not be allowed. So this can be done by setting up a in the local policy security options within that group policy itself. This is the path which is there, and you should set one login and do not allow storage of passwords on for network authentication. So now the folders. Now in order to prevent the ransomware attacks, the Windows Defender has got an facility which it gives an option where you can combat, you can fight the threat of ransomware by properly configuring it. So you can configure which all applications which are allowed, and which all folders are to be blocked, which all folders to be accessible. So it depends on what type of data you are storing onto your desktop. These policies can be configured in the Windows Defender itself. Authentication. If you are joining the network, if you're being authenticated using the domain computers, then you should not enumerate local users on domain joined computers. You should not display your password reveal button. Your enumerate administrator account on should be disabled so that any user account cannot become an administrator. You should uh, you should always hide your username and the password, and every time when the system switched on, the user has to type his username and then the password, so that it is otherwise what will happen, in case the username is visible, then the hacker can easily guess the passwords depending upon the username. What will happen that in case my name is suppose Gaurav, then I may have a option habit of keeping the password as the combination of some Gaurav, or combination of Gaurav with date of birth, or a combination of date of joining. So there are various options. So the more difficult we make for a hacker to guess our username and password, it will be difficult for him to entry into the system. You should always work in a user mode. The benefit of working in a user mode is that if any malware, or if any unwanted application is by mistake deployed onto the system, it will not, and if executed will, if installed, not executed, if it wants to get installed into the system, it will be requiring your admin passwords. So a pop-up will be generated. So it's better that you should always work on a user account and should not be working on a admin account. It will prevent you from getting from the access to the adversary. Browser. Most of you must be using various other browsers. So this is the Microsoft Edge, which is a default browser. You should configure it to harden it and to prevent various unwanted things coming and being accessed to your browser, which includes your pop-ups, flash, tracking, passwords managers, and all other things. So this is the Edge browser, which can be configured using this policy. Now comes the accessing dangerous websites. So this should be enabled, and you should block accessing the dangerous website as per the Microsoft Edge has been decided, because they themselves have categorized various websites which which can be marked as dangerous, or which can be marked as risky for the users. Patching. So though we don't have an option, this is one of the methods which I have shown you to update your Windows system and patch management for. So generally what happens, it is configured through the control panels and the setting Windows update, where it automatically downloads, and a pop-up comes up to restart your computer. Restart a computer and update the install. So that is the easiest method for the user. However, for the information purpose, you should keep your automatic update installation enabled, and you should automatically the system should be downloaded into your system. They should not get automatically patched up. For that, the permission of a user is required. Is to be configured whether they want to update the system, or they do not want to update the system. As far as in case they are the computers in organizations are connected onto a WSUS kind of environment, then the method shown here will be utilized, and you need to define the server port which will be used for detecting the WSUS servers. What does WSUS server does? It is a central repository where all the updates which relate to the applications which are there into the organization is being collected at the central location, and the WSUS client which is installed at the each user agent will then pull or the WSUS configuration. It can also push the updates to all the clients, and this updation can be centrally taken out. The password policy. So this is I would say that the pin habit of configuring the pin is a bad habit, because it can be easily be guessed. So it should always be a password or a password phrase. Now the length, the age, and the complexity, it should be as per the organization, or in case my own, I am not connected onto the any computer onto the network, then it should be as per my own comfort. But these are the recommendations which are there, that it should be 12 characters, it should be complex, and it should minimum password, it should be at least 30 days. And every 30 days, I know this 30 days, it seems to me is more, because I have a habit of changing my passwords every 15 days or so. So it's difficult to remember the password. So I always have the password phrases made, where some change in the characters here and there changes the entire hash of that password or phrase. So these are the higher priorities which we should be clearing off as soon as possible. Now comes the medium priorities. So what is account lockout? So account lockout is that, suppose you are working and you go out for a coffee break, or you go out for a to the another boss, or go, or somebody comes up into your system root cabin, and you started discussing something else. So what time the screen should get password protected, within how much time duration? So that is the screensaver. Now once this, suppose you are out of the chair, and then somebody enters in your cabin and try to log on into your system, then uh, how then the whether how it should be make difficult for him to access your computer without your permission. So you should configure in such a way that how many invalid attempts will lock your screen, how many failed passwords will lock your screen, and for how much duration the screen will be locked, or the account will be locked, and even you will not be able to access. So this will help you. First of all, this will prevent you from unauthorized access. Second, this policy will help you in knowing that somebody has unauthorizedly tried to open your system. So these are the in the list of the users, the SIDs, the shares, the workstation policies, the patch levels, everything which the anonymous connections, the information which is gathered from the various anonymous connections that can be controlled by the group policy in such a manner that the guest logins should be disabled. In your network, your SIDs or the SAM accounts, your the SID should be disabled, and your SAM account should be restricted. Your access to this computer from the network can be as a remote desktop users. So these all have to be configured, so to secure the system where you are working, and giving the less exposure onto the internet world. So in case you are not able to capture and analyze security related audit events, so their intrusion can go unnoticed. So security related audit events from workstation should be captured, and the IT team should routinely analyze it, so to see in case any untoward traffic or untoward incident is not happening. So that needs to be configured by the IT team in such a manner that it should be defined, the log size, the log file location, what all events it should capture, whether the, if I log in into the system and I am successfully logging in, that event should also be captured. If I have put a wrong password to log into the system, that event which is generated should also be captured, so that your entire activities which is happening onto a computer or onto a network can be analyzed, can notice, and can be analyzed easily. So the audit process creation, account lockout, audit group, audit lockout, these are all policies, and these are all recommendations. They are not as a guidelines from, they are recommendations. The organization can mull it over to finalize the activities, the events which needs to be logged, which they think that it is important, and which they feel that it is not important for them. All these, the commands which are being shown here are being it is just one group. It comes under the major head of group policy.msc. Whenever we insert the pen drive or a CD driver, we expect that a window should automatically open up, and an auto run kind of a facility should be there, which I feel it should be, and it should not be the case. We should prevent auto execution of any such thing, so we should disable it, and autoplay should be disabled at every time, and it is the user who should take whether that file needs to be open up or it should not be open. The BIOS passwords, they are the first step of the defense. So everybody, we have forgotten that BIOS password thing, but BIOS passwords should also be configured and placed to prevent any any unauthorized access onto that. In case you are working in a bridged network bridging environment where your DNS domain network, that should be enabled. If you have internal traffic, that should be enabled, and non-domain connections, if you want to restrict, then that connection, that policy can be configured where you will be restricting the non-domain connections of the network. The build and guest account, as I've already said, that it allows an adversary to log into a system over the network. The most important here is over the network without requirement of any user credentials which user must have saved. So by default, the built-in guest account in the computer should be disabled. So that's the feature which is there in the group policy, and we should apply it. Command prompt. Now, if a user the command prompt is basically a built-in tool which can be used to gather the information of a workstation, as well as can help the adversary to schedule the various malicious files to get executed. So this access to the command prompt should be disabled as far as the computers which are there onto the network where the official premises is being in the office premises. However, at the home premise, it is case to case basis, but for the office premise, this should be restricted as far as the office premise is concerned. These are the end devices where the CDs, the floppies, the tape drives, the removable disks. So what action needs to be taken when you put whether it should be permitted to execute, whether it should be permitted to read, whether it should be permitted to write, what all actions needs to be made to prevent any unauthorized movement of data or a sensitive information from your desktop. So this can be controlled appropriately by the or remove by using the removable storage devices. So the password, the hashes of the password, which is less than 15 characters, is stored as LAN hash and the Windows NT hash. So LM hash is weaker than NT hash and can be. So you should configure that the LAN manager hash value should not be stored on the network. So that is the thing where you show your passwords can be secured. So now the next is the registry. Registry is the called the as far as the group policy is concerned, it is the controlling the computer, but the registry is internal activities of the computer, and it functioning depends on the registry. So as in the office environment, you should not grant a user to modify the registry using the registry edit tools, or with so that it the functioning or the office environment should function normally. So the access to the registry should be disabled, and it should also be disabled from running it silently also. So as far as the remote assistance is concerned, we do not have a scenario where we can where we need a remote assistance, or we give our computer desktop onto a remote environment or a remote user. So the remote assistance or the should be disabled using the group policy. Remote, similarly for the remote desktop, we are not sharing our desktop, or we are not giving access within our network to somebody else unless it is permitted on a case-to-case basis. We should remote desktop services should also be disabled. RPC is it's basically client and server application communication. If an RPC is basically unauthorized, is only for an authorized communication. In case some attacker uses this RPC remote procedure call for some unauthorized communication, then the sensitive information can be accidentally be disclosed. So we restrict we should unauthorized access to the RPC should be restricted, and it should be enabled. Safe mode, it is just to bypass the command prompt options. So we should non-administrators should be prevented from using the safe mode, and using the group policy, which says that you need that safe mode block non-admins should be enabled as one. It is basically a registry entry. You can go it through the regedit command, and you can reach it at the policy system, and you can set the safe mode block non-admins as one. System backup is basically to keep a backup of the configuration, to keep a backup of the file, so that in case it can be easily be restored in and can be prevented from the adversaries. So backup functionality should only be restricted to the administrators, and the system backup and the restoration also should be restricted only to the administrators. Use group policies also have got some weaknesses. So the user right policy should be comprehensively be specified, which needs to be which needs to be configured in the group policy. So the user rights is who can do what activity, whether logs can be logs on administrators, allow logs for administrator, for users, debugging should be allowed to whom, force shutdown from a remote system should be allowed to whom, and firmware who should modify what all who should be the ownership. So all these can be defined and using the user rights. So these are the default values which have been defined, and based on the organization setup, they can be easily be configured at the path shown on the slide. Remote shell to scripts and commands on the workstation to execute remotely by a third party should be disabled and should be allowed only on case-to-case basis. So this can be controlled and using the group policy where Windows remote shell command should be disabled. So the file extensions should be always be viewable. It should be visible where what file is being downloaded or what file is there on my desktop, whether it is the correct extension or it is somebody has changed the file extension and it has hidden. So it should always, one should always display the file extension. So it is better that you should hide that file extension option to 0, and so that every file type which is being saved onto the system is you are able to see the extension, whether it is a genuine file or it is some exe or some malicious file. The firewall, it is the Windows firewall.msc is the one, or you can directly go through the command prompt control panel also, and you should define the rules in the Windows firewall. So there are one basic rule which you should apply into your desktop is the block all rule, where your all ports from any IP, you should block it fraud and inward connection. It will not hamper this command, where this rule will not hamper your any other functioning, whether you are accessing Google or whether you're accessing email. By default, nobody should allow to enter into your system. Services.msc is the place where you can define these what all services should run onto my system, or which all services should not run onto my system. So the root directory, the directory sharing, the NetBoy services should be by default disabled. In addition, the LAN server, the other dangerous services should also be disabled. File and printing services, if you are working on a network printer, I recommend that this should not be disturbed. Otherwise, your basic functioning will create a problem. So every time now the startup programs, what is msconfig? Msconfig is a command when your computer boots up, what all applications are automatically get executed application. So you can control that applications and what all application you should start when my computer get booted up. So it will speed reducing the number of applications at the time of boot up will help you in improving the speed of the boot up, and the less number of applications will be loaded. So you will be able, your operating, the boot up time will get reduced. I would like to say, before I end, I would like to show you few what all I have said. I just want to show you if where you can do what all I have said is all available here. So this is the first window which I shown you, is the local computer policy and the user configuration. So it has got three options: the software setting, the Windows settings, and the administrative templates. So whatever you want to do with your thing, everything is available here. So you can implement your every configuration file from anywhere to anywhere, and you will be able to do the configuration settings like the account policy, now the password policy. So you have to just click here and just say whatever number of days you want to apply. So this is my presentation computer, which is very limitedly connected to the.
Sir, we are not able to see your screen, sir. It may be on the other screen, sir.
Sorry. I'll de-share it and share it once again. I hope, is it now visible, sir?
Yes, sir, it is visible now.
Okay, sir. So I know, so the first command was gpedit.msc. So when you do gp.msc, this is the window which opens up. And this is the window which opens up. So this is the, here you can do all your configuration settings and all your settings which have been shown here. So to start off, I'll go to the security settings and I'll say account policies. So comes to the password policy. So here you can define how many passwords you want to remember. So if I say 5 passwords, so every time, every sixth password you can repeat. It is like which is there in your banking system also, where it is there in your ATM system pins also, that you can enforce. So it depends whether you want to enforce one, you want to enforce two, depending on the number of passwords you want to mm, remember. Then this is the password age, for how many days the password should be, the maximally should be it should be live. After that you have to change the password. The length of the password you can define. By default it should be 12. Then the third thing is the account lockout. How many times, what is the lockout duration, whether it is by default it should be 30. How many failed attempts you want to allow here, you can define it, whether 2, 3, 4, 5, all those things. Then comes the audit policy. What all things you want to audit? You want to audit logon events, you want to audit policy change, you want to edit systems. You can define it here, just click it. What all, whether success, whether failure. The description is also given here. In case you have any doubt, you can read it through this description and see what this policy is meant. Similarly, for the security options, you have to say that my guest account should be disabled, my administrator account should be renamed, and what all things my CD-ROM should be accessible or not, whether my username should be visible or not. All these kinds of policies you can show it, you will configure it, and you will be able to see it. Now comes the advanced audit policies. So these are the policies which I've talked about, where you account logon, account management, tracking, logon. You want to the user account policies which I discussed on the top, they can be controlled from here, where each policy, what all objects you want to control, you can by default control what needs to be done, and whether you want to take a log of this event or not, it can be easily be configured from here. The next command I want to show it to you is this, which is the registry editor. Am I visible, Anupamji?
Yes, sir, you are visible.
This registry editor.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
No, the group policy editor is visible, not registry editor.
sir. I hope now visible, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is the registry editor, which should not be accessible to the normal user who has very less knowledge, and it should be only be accessible to the IT team who should be working onto the systems. So the various things which is most important for a home computer is the most thing is or a person who should know it, just where to see it. It contains every information. Any activity which is there happening on a system is being registered here. So first example, how many pen drives have been installed in this computer. For me, I just want to check up. So what I'll do, I'll open this window. This window will be opened it like here. So I go to horizontal a local machine. When I go to the local machine, I go to system, I go to current control set, I go to enum, and I go to USB store. So this is the pen drive which which has been used into my computer. So you just want to see the date, you just export it and save it onto the other document as a text document. The moment you save it on a text document, it will the entries with related to this pen drive will be stored at a particular location, and you will be able to see what date, what time this pen drive has been inserted into my computer, and whether it is done by me or it is done by somebody else. This can be cross verified by going to the mounted devices column, and you need to just export it and save it as a text file. Once you save it as a text file, you need to search for that particular device types. In my case, it was the HP pen drive, so V210. So that same needs to be searched there onto this uh, document which you have saved. The exact date can be verified from these two locations. Sorry for jumping a different topic. So this is the registry where you can do all those things. In case you want to control it, you can also control it, all the policies, all the services from here. This we will be talking into the next lecture, where we can do what all services are running, and from where we can do the audited thing. With this, I would like to finish it off and finish it off my session, and would say thank you to all for patiently attending after the post lunch session. Maybe sleeping or not, I don't know, but it will help you. This configuration will help you in securing your desktop and prevent and limiting the attack surface from your limiting the attack surface, and giving you a nice peaceful sleep in the night. I've finished. Sir, any questions? I would love to take. Radhika ji, your question has come, how to check if any deleted pen drives are there in the registry. So, ma'am, there is a tool called YARU. It is yet another registry utility. It is a paid tool, madam, but you can download it for about a trial purpose. So it is available for Linux, it is available for Windows 32 and 64-bit. The tool name is YARU. What it will give you, it will give you the entries, all entries which has been deleted from the registry. So you need to go to a specific place and search for those deleted entries. Any other questions, sir? So if there are no questions, thank you very much for patiently listening. Thank you, Anupam.
The question is, in some PC, only few USB ports are enabled. If we want to enable other USB port, can we know password from the
Madam, I'm not able to listen to you clearly, ma'am. Can you please use the chat box, please? Nagesh ji, I hope you have asked a question. Can we know the password from the regedit? I don't think so. You can able to get, because it is stored in an encrypted form. You cannot get a password. I hope. Ma'am, USB port you can enable in Windows 10. There is a command in the registry only, where you need to place a figure. There are three. For then value more than 4, you are blocking the USB, and for placing value less than 4, you will be utilized to use the USB port. But only thing is that once you enable a USB port, all the ports will be enabled. You cannot selectively block or unblock the ports.
Sir, Narendra Kumar ji has asked a question in Hindi.
हाँ
He
बताइए.
says, क्या वर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट में कॉपी पेस्ट को ब्लॉक किया जा सकता है?
सर वो फैसिलिटी दी हुई है विंडोज की, उस फैसिलिटी को हम कंट्रोल आपकी एक्टिविटी के साथ कैसे कर पाएंगे सर? इट इज कॉपी पेस्ट को, अनुपम जी आई डोंट थिंक सो, मेरे ख्याल से तो नहीं होता है ये चीज.
हाँ सर, मुश्किल ही है, बट इफ वी वांट इट टू बी स्टॉप्ड वी कैन हैव ए रेस्ट्रिक्शन ऑन, पासवर्ड लगा के रेस्ट्रिक्शन करके एक बार ट्राई किया जा सकता है. तो
सर उसकी बेसिक फंक्शनैलिटी खत्म हो जाएगी ना सर फिर?
हाँ, बेसिक फंक्शनैलिटी खत्म हो जाएगी
सर.
या
वैसा ठीक है अनुपम सर, thank you very much. I hope I have clarified. In case you want this presentation, I'll share it also. There is nothing so much confidential here, so that users can, जो आपके participants हैं, they can try it on their themselves also.